This weekend, the latest film in the Halloween franchise hits theaters. That means today we're going to stop and rank all 11 Halloween films from the worst to the best. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Chandler, and I started this channel essentially because I was driving everyone around me crazy talking about movies way too much. If you can relate to that you like to talk about movies more than the people around you, you're probably in the right place. And with that in mind, go ahead and give me your ranking down below in the comment section. Tell me which ones you love, which ones you hate, and everything in between. As I dive into my ranking, it's based off the versions of the film in the current 10-disc set. That means it's the theatrical cut of Part 6, and it's the director's cut of both of Rob Zombie's films. With that said, let's get started. Coming in last place is Halloween Resurrection. To me, this is a film that commits 3 unforgivable cinematic sins in just the first 10 minutes of the film. First off, it does my biggest sequel pet peeve by undermining the victory of the previous film by revealing that Michael Myers wasn't actually defeated by Laurie Strode. She just decapitated some innocent paramedic and has been locked up in a loony bin ever since. Second thing that it does is that it kills her off in the first 10 minutes of the movie. Third thing it does, it kills her off in an unbelievably stupid way. And when you do things like this, you undermine the hero of the franchise and make them very pathetic, which is not what we want for Laurie Strode. From there, it goes into a very generic early Zeros slasher film with the lame jokes, the stunt casting of Busta Rhymes, and then you have Busta Rhymes doing martial arts moves that he learned from movies against Michael Myers. Overall, this is a very pathetic film and kind of a betrayal of the franchise. Coming in at number 10 is Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. Now, I can appreciate what he was trying to do by exploring the psychology of these characters and how different people would be affected by the events of the previous film. But for me, this movie is a very unpleasant slog. Most of that comes down to the fact that Rob Zombie didn't give any characters in this movie any redeeming or likable characteristics. They turned Laurie Strode into this character that's just so broken that it's not pleasant to watch her on screen. Loomis is turned into this selfish, disconnected guy trying to sell books on a book tour. Add to that a bunch of hallucination sequences that feel very out of place inside of this franchise, and you have a movie that to me is a gigantic misfire that does not do justice to any of these characters. At number 9 is Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Now, to me, this movie's very interesting that it exists because it is this anthology film totally detached from the Michael Myers storyline. Now, while I appreciate the gamble that they took with this film, I don't think it pays off at all. The film is too far off genre as well as a little bit too weird for me. I just can't get connected to this storyline about a mask maker that's trying to mass kill children on Halloween night using magic from witchcraft from Stonehenge. In general, I don't really enjoy this as a film, and as a Halloween film, it's kind of out of place. Number 8 is Rob Zombie's Halloween. To me, this is the most frustrating film on the list because I think his interpretation of the original film is quite interesting. John Carpenter treated Michael Myers as this embodiment of evil, just the shape. But Rob Zombie personalizes Mike Myers. We see him as a kid. We see a day in his life. We see him at the Institute and see him as this person, as this child that kills people. And that's very unsettling in a totally new way. But Zombie's characters and dialogue are so unbelievably nasty, crass, and vulgar. It makes it very difficult for me to sit through. Add to that an uncomfortable amount of sexual violence and rape, and it just makes for a movie that goes to really gross places. Add to that our main heroine doesn't show up as a teenager until 55 minutes into the movie, and while I like the broad concepts, the actual execution itself does not work for me at all. Coming in at number 7 is Halloween 5. I feel like this movie wastes so much of its potential right off the bat by taking that great final twist reveal of the previous film and morphing it into just a psychological connection between Michael and Jamie. The execution of the connection is pretty weird inside of the film. Add to that, Tina is an unbelievably annoying character. But I actually find the third act of this film to be pretty engaging. I enjoy the chase of it all. all. Also, Loomis is in top form in this film. You get this great line.
I prayed that he would burn in hell, but in my heart, I knew that hell would not have him.
While it's got some elements I like, it's not as good as it should be. This is Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. This is another one of the interesting films inside the franchise because most of the films here have very simple, straightforward plot lines. This film, however, probably is the most complex plot line of any film in the franchise. Now, while that's interesting, it's also pretty confusing. It doesn't help that there's multiple cuts of the film, but for me, this one is a little bit more watchable because it does have kind of a nice change of pace by adding several more elements to it, providing some answers to some questions, some deeper mythology. Of course, it's nice to see Paul Rudd on screen. He's got a nice screen presence, of course. Probably my biggest problem with this film is they kill off Jamie so early in the film, and I hate it when movies do things like that, as I've previously mentioned in this video. Bringing us into the top 5 is Halloween 4. This movie kicks off the Thorn trilogy, and you can see that this is a franchise that is kind of in its groove by this point in time. They know that you have Dr. Loomis deliver certain types of lines, and we want to see Michael Myers do certain types of kills, and that's what this movie delivers. This is the franchise in full steam ahead mode. Add to that, we get a nice change of direction by adding the Jamie plotline into the mix, and that final twist reveal in the film is one of the nice moments inside of this franchise, and probably for me the standout of the Thorn trilogy when that happens. Now, the movie does strain quite a bit of credibility by bringing Loomis back after the end of Halloween 2, but hey, that's some of the fun of the genre. Number 4 is Halloween 2. This is an interesting way to do a sequel because it continues right when the original film ends, and that makes for this very neat little way to have these two movies that go back to back. In that, it also continues the tone and the vibe of the first film very well. It's tonally the most consistent with the original film. Add to that, you've got some great gnarly kills in this film. In particular, that one with the hot tub gets under my skin every single time as her skin starts to melt off. Add to that, you got a number of different iconic moments in this film, whether you're talking about the reveal that Laurie and Michael are brother and sister, or that great final sacrifice from Loomis. All in all, it makes for a nice addition to the Halloween franchise. Probably my biggest problem with this one is just the hospital setting feels a little bit stale to me. I prefer kind of being out on the streets inside of homes as opposed to at a hospital. Real quick, before I go into my top 3, be sure to give me your ranking down below in the comment section. Also, after this video is done, check out this playlist up above of my best and most up-to-date ranking of classic horror franchises. If you like this video, there's something in there that you'll enjoy. Bringing us into the top 3 is Halloween H2O. For me, this is probably the most fun film in the franchise. I was in high school during the Scream, Kevin Williamson era of horror movies, and so that's kind of what I grew up watching that made me enjoy horror films in general, so I have a bias towards this type of film. Add to that, you've got a really great cast here, whether you're talking about Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Josh Hartnett, of course the return of Jamie Lee Curtis, even your side characters are LL Cool J. Just all of them have a screen presence that makes you like them a little bit more than you otherwise might based off of the writing. Add to that, you got a great final showdown between Laurie and Michael Myers, and so there's just a lot of crowd-pleasing moments. Now, it's not as good as it should be. It's dated quite a bit, but it's a ton of fun for me. Our runner-up is Halloween 2018. Now, I love this setup for this film where it actually explores what would the events of the original film do to Laurie? How would she grow up? Who would she be as an old woman? How would she raise her daughter? Likewise, how would society look at Michael Myers as a killer? Add to this might be the best produced film of the entire franchise. There's some beautiful tracking shots inside of it. There's some wonderful, scary, intense sequences, in particular, the sequence in the gas station, and you get a great final showdown once again between Michael Myers and Laurie. For the first half of this film, I was thinking I might like it more than the original film, but as it continued along, there were some things that started to bother me. First off, some of the humor felt really out of place and pulled me out of the film. In particular, as the babysitter's being killed, it cracked some jokes that really killed the tension of the moment. And then also the plot twist that happens involving new Dr. Loomis. I didn't think worked at all. It was underdeveloped and it seemed like a rabbit trail that did not belong inside the film. Overall, a great addition to the franchise, but not as good as it should have been or as it could have been. But coming in first place is the original Halloween. This film is a classic of the genre for good reason. Just looking at the premise, it seems like a lot of other films inside the genre, but John Carpenter's gift has always been excellence through simplicity. Right off the bat, this movie sets up this unsettling tone by showing this long tracking shot of a teenage girl being brutally murdered and then revealing the killer is a child. The rest of the film builds tension by showing this day from the perspective of three different groups. A group of innocent teenagers, Dr. Loomis who knows the doom that's coming, and the perspective of the Shape as it stalks the teenagers and starts to kill them. This creates a tension that builds and builds and builds until all three perspectives merge in the climax. But it's the execution that makes all the difference here, from the simple yet iconic score to the casting of pedigree actor Donald Pleasence as Loomis. This movie works because of the details, and because of that, it comes in at number 1. Be sure to check out that playlist to the left of my best and most up-to-date ranking of classic horror franchises. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.